Any other questions on the consent calendar? Okay, even though we will not be hearing item 11.7, there are some cards on, one card on that, and allow you to make comment. So for the consent calendar, you have 2 minutes to make the comments. So Lisa Landris, followed by Efrain Carrillo.
Mine was going to be on an agenda item, so I had listed that on there. I don't think we're at that part, are we?
This is 11.7, that's what the cards has, consent calendar.
Okay, for the resolution, for the extension and proclamation of local homeless emergency?
Correct, so we will not be voting on that tonight because we don't have a quorum for that, but we'll receive your comments.
But you are doing public comment, okay.
Yes.
I just didn't want to speak out of turn on it. I'm fielding a lot of complaints from people that live around the Morgan Street spot, the Redwood Gospel Mission. A lot of people saying that the conditional use permit is pretty much obliterated and that there's a lot of activity that's happening there that doesn't seem to be in sync with that. I'm not sure if the emergency status has provided for a greater scope, including changing ADA requirements, traffic and safety and all that, but there's a lot of people that have contacted me and they've had particulars all written down, and I'm happy to share them with you later in a bigger format. But I want you to note that as a concern, that maybe they're not aware of what they can really do under that order, or if it even affects their scope of work at all. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Alan Thomas, followed by Maruna Mararano.
Council, thanks. My name is Alan Thomas, 306 Boy Street. I'm here to address some of the issues associated with the illegal camping out on the Joe Verdota Trail. I've done a little bit of research and tried to look into some of the different aspects that you guys are looking at. And when I do call dispatch about some of the items, I'm told over the phone when I'm calling the police about the Boise ruling, and then there's an injunction. But it's a little confusing to the public because there's two separate things here. There's the Boise ruling in the Ninth Circuit Court that is going to the Supreme Court, and I wish the council and the city would support Boise in their fight to put up illegal camping signs in their cities, so be it. And then there's the injunction brought on by a lawsuit against the city of Santa Rosa and the police department by some individuals. So it's very confusing to the public, and it would be helpful if you could explain how your hands are tied, why your hands are tied, what are the parameters that that you guys are under that I hear the Sheriff's Department is not under. And I would also urge you, with your support to Boise, to bring the county up to speed here, and whoever the representatives, I don't know if that's Shirley Zane or Linda Hopkins, to have their Sheriff's Department work on their property. If their rangers feel intimidated going out there and trying to clear the camps, I don't see how the city of Santa Rosa Police Department can handle it. They're already taxed. They have to deal with so many issues, and I really think the county is kind of fumbling personally. And I would hope that your group, your leadership group, would reach out, maybe you have, and I apologize if you've already done that, to not just collaborate, but to hold their feet to the fire and get this thing cleaned up. Because it's doing nothing for the reputation of the city of Santa Rosa. It's doing nothing for the people that are out there. It's getting to be super cold. And so what's the next solution going to be? Where are they going to go after this? Are they going to go back downtown, or are they going to go somewhere else? They need a suitable place to go, to be sorted out. Hopefully their issues are dealt with. But in the meantime, I would just ask for you folks to do your best to get the county involved as much as you can and have the Sheriff's Department deal with this. Because we all kind of have to work within rules and boundaries. And you're asked the public to speak for 3 minutes. So every time you hear the buzzer go off at 3 minutes, just remind yourself, you ask citizens to do things, and we try our best to comply. So we're asking you to help everyone comply to some of the issues. So thank you for your time.
Brenda Gilchrist, followed by Anita Anderson.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm a taxpayer and a resident in Santa Rosa. I'd love to see hands up from anyone that's here from Citizens for Action Now. Great. Glad to see more people from CAN showing up. I think a lot of the problems in the community have brought people like me and others that have shown up here tonight because of the frustration and the concerns for our quality of life and concerns for our safety. As some of you know, there was a recent video that went out that reflected the amount of tents on the Joe Rodota Trail. During that bike trip down the Joe Rodota Trail, I witnessed two people in front of my own eyes. One man wrapping a tourniquet around his arm and shooting a needle up his arm. It was shocking to me. I've never seen anything like that in my life. The other thing that I saw next to that shortly thereafter was another gentleman to the left of the bike trail shooting a needle in his wrist. That's on video as well. There were numerous tents. There was a tent city that one of my neighbors from Fountain Grove had recently gotten removed from behind the Outlook Apartments. That same chop shop, it's called, I guess, where they take bikes that are stolen and they resell the bike parts or they resell the bikes. That chop shop is now out there on Joe Rodota Trail. I recognize the tent, I recognize the people, and I recognize that there's a bunch of bikes out there. As a cyclist, I'm concerned about all the bikes that have been stolen. At the end of the day, what we're asking for as Citizens for Action Now is to enforce laws. If there's any situations like illegal drug use that I witnessed myself, when I called the police, I reported it. I said, please report this. Someone needs to do something about that. And they said, at this point, an injunction from Boise, Idaho is restraining us from doing that. I read the injunction. The injunction does not protect illegal drug use. The vagrancy, the lawlessness that's happening in our city, it's having people like me and others from CAN want to exit this county. We're taxpayers, we're business owners, we care and love about this community, and at the end of the day, we do have compassion for people, but it's the transients, the vagrants, people that are felons that they used to be arrested for these things because of Prop 47. They're now not arrested, they're misdemeanors. That needs to change. I would encourage everyone to vote for repealing Prop 47 as well. But we appreciate you listening to us, and we really are just at kind of a tipping point. And we know you have to hear from a lot of people. So thank you so much for listening to us as citizens of the city.
Thank you. Steve Soltis.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Good evening, and thanks for taking the time to listen to what I have to say here. I'm sure you've heard this over and over again about the homeless problem. We all know it. It's the drugs, the theft, I have a building in Santa Rosa, and I am tired of picking up needles and used toilet paper and calling the cops on a daily basis for them to come out and do something about it. But I am going to tell you something maybe you don't know. And I hired recently a former homeless guy. And I asked him, I sat down and interviewed him for about an hour, and I talked to him. I said, if out of 10 people that are homeless, how many really want to be homeless? And he said 80%. I asked him clearly, we sat down and talked about it. 80% choose to be on the streets. 80%. I said, why is that? And he says, we get 3 square meals. We know where to go to get our food. Nobody bothers us. We get to camp out. We get to do our drugs. We don't have to have any responsibility. And I said, well, how do you guys survive? He says, we go into the Target shopping center and we pick up the receipts. And we walk in with the receipts. And we go right up to all the items that are on that receipt and we return them to the store. And they give us a credit card or a Target card. We bring that down to the credit exchange and they give us a percentage of that. So that's how they make their money. Not to mention, I said, what about, does anybody ever ask you to go to lunch or to buy you dinner? And he says, why would I leave my corner? I make 40 to 45 bucks for that hour. I would never give up my corner for that. So it's a problem, and these are people that choose to be there, and that's one issue. The other thing I think you should know, maybe you don't hear this, but the police department is fed up. And when I talk to the officers, they say we are waiting for the uprising. We are waiting for the change because nothing's being done. We're not getting the support from the city council. The sheriff's department's not getting support from the sheriff, and they're frustrated. So I can go on and on because I have my family's in the law enforcement. I have friends that are out at the sheriff's out at the river, and they tell me about all the stops they make, and they don't even do anything anymore because they have no backing from the city council. At the end of the day, we are the taxpayers, and you work for us, and we hired you. And remember the words that you said to us when you ran for election. And we expect you guys to honor those words and stick up for the taxpayer and take care of us and quit worrying about the homeless people, because they're really not homeless. There's probably 20% that choose to be homeless. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Murphy.
I'm Craig Murphy. I live on Dartmouth Drive. I'm here also to discuss the homeless issue in Santa Rosa. It's been a concern for quite a while. My kids walking home from school last year witnessed somebody drugged out on the side of the Greenway off of Yulupa Avenue with used needles at their feet. We used to take our kids on the Joe Rodota Trail as a family outing to go to Screaming Mimi's. We no longer do that because it's dangerous. I was one of the folks on the bike ride that most of you saw, or a lot of you saw in the video that's been going around. The homeless issue, as was also mentioned, these are folks, some of these folks are truly in need, and we want to give help to the people that want the help. We need mental health care, we need drug treatment. That has to be done. But there's a large population that they're offered shelters, they're offered storage under the injunction for their goods, yet they do not take it. They do not want to abide by the rules that are required in the shelters. And so that's one issue. Another issue is that there's no tracking. So when shelter is offered, they don't take a name. They don't say, okay, well, now we offered you shelter on this day. They don't come back 2 days later and find the person there and say, well, you were offered shelter, you didn't take it, so now the rules of the injunction have been followed. We will remove you from the encampment. That's what should be happening. That's not happening. Another issue that we've been discussing with local business leaders in Santa Rosa is the frustration. We've already seen Sprenger's Tap Room. That was something that disappeared a little over a year ago. One of the issues, and I talked to him personally, was the homeless defecating on his porch, lighting his awning on fire by using his mushroom heaters in the middle of the night, throwing a brick through his window. There was no ramifications for that action. It was on him. He was threatened to be fined for not cleaning feces off of his front porch in time because of homeless people that were stooping on his front porch. We talked to another restaurant owner just yesterday who's looking at shutting down his business potentially within the next 2 weeks, because a big part of it is the homeless issue. There's other issues as well, like non-responsiveness from city leaders, but the homeless issue was a primary theme that he mentioned. There's big businesses like the Russian River Brewery that have concerns with the homeless issue and dealing with city council in Santa Rosa. They talk about how refreshing it is to go to Windsor and to have the city council there be so welcoming and open arms and a lot less red tape that they have to go through to get their business set up and running. That's not the case in Santa Rosa. We're chasing businesses away. Thank you very much.